With the subcompact SUV segment doing so well here in the States, it looks as if even the German brands want a piece of that sales pie. Today I'm taking a look at Audi's entry, the all-new 2016 Q3. Now, Audi is no stranger to offering a small, inexpensive, entry-level luxury sedan in the United States. The company was one of the first with the small A3 hatchback back in 2006. Today, Audi is known for offering a pretty well-diverse lineup, ranging from the small A3 sedan all the way up to an R8 supercar. Now, regarding their SUV lineup, they have been a pretty big success here in the US. The Q5 as Audi's leader in the SUV segment in terms of sales. Of course, there's also the fully redesigned Q7. Now, when Audi decided that they needed a smaller SUV to slot below the Q5, the company just basically decided to bring over its subcompact Q3 SUV from Europe. And now this model has been around since 2011, and it's essentially based off of the old A3 hatchback, just a little bit taller. It competes with a new class of vehicles from Mercedes-Benz with the GLA, and then of course the BMW X1. Now, in terms of where it fits in the marketplace between its German competitors, the Q3 tries to occupy a little bit of a middle ground. In terms of size, it's about 10 inches shorter than Audi's popular Q5 SUV at about 172 inches long, but it's also shorter than the Mercedes GLA and the BMW X1. Now, for 2016, Audi did give the Q3 a subtle update, even though they just introduced it here in the States last year for 2015. You can see the front end of my Premium Plus model sports these updated headlight designs with an LED daytime running light with bi-xenons. Now, speaking of which, compared to its other German competitors, the Audi gives you bi-xenon headlights, a backup camera, parking sensors, and a panoramic sunroof as standard equipment. On its competitors from Mercedes and BMW, you do have to pay extra, especially as much as $1,500 extra for the big pano roof that comes standard on the base model Q3. Now, you can see the design of the Q3 is definitely in resemblance with the Audi family. It has the same corporate Audi single frame grille. This new chrome piece that goes integrated into the headlight is a new feature for 2016, and it looks very similar to Audi's just redesigned Q7 SUV. And expect an all-new Q5 to come out later next year, or for 2017 as well. Now, you can see the side profile of the Q3 certainly looks like every other Audi SUV. It definitely has that boxy, somewhat conservative look. These 18-inch wheels come standard on my Premium Plus model. There is a 19-inch wheel available as an $800 option that'll come standard on the top of the line Prestige model. Now, looking around the rear of the vehicle, this is probably where I see a lot more of a hatchback on stilts look. It has the same kind of rear trunklet design where the taillights are integrated into the deck that actually opens and closes. You have these twin exhaust outlets at the lower portion, and overall you do see a lot of the pint-sized dimensions of the Q3, especially from the rear quarter view. The taillights also got a slight update for 2016. There's a new LED design. LED taillights with a full LED taillight and an LED turn signal are standard on every Q3 model. Now, overall, I think the Q3 certainly has the handsome Audi looks, and it does a pretty good job at hiding the fact that the Q3's platform is pretty darn old. This is actually based off of the Mark V Golf platform, which, as you guys know, was basically 10 years old in terms of its design. But let's take a look at the interior and see if it still has that Audi level of quality and luxury you expect from this company. Now, inside Audi's entry-level subcompact Q3, you can see the interior sports the similar design language that you expect from the Audi family. The same very nice looking leather bucket seats are standard, the same Audi steering wheel that you basically get off of the A3, and overall it's a very pleasant and pleasing environment just to look at an initial glance. Now, stepping inside the vehicle, you can see it has a pretty nice step-in height. It's basically why you're going to go for this class of vehicle. It sits up higher, it gives you a much more commanding view of the road. Now, shutting the door, It has a pretty solid thunk that you associate with Audi, so at initial glance, I'm pretty impressed with the interior. Now, push-button start is actually standard along with Audi's advanced key. Some of the competitors make you pay extra for like a premium package. Audi gives it to you as standard. I'm not really a fan of the key. This is basically a Volkswagen key with the switchblade. It just has the Audi symbol on it. The newer Audis, like that Q5 I showed you, have the larger, more advanced Audi key system. Now, you can see the button to start the engine is actually down here, so all you have to do is put your foot on the brake and then push this button here to fire it up. And then, of course, what you're hearing is the corporate 2-liter turbocharged gasoline engine. There is no diesel, of course, available for the Q3. And, of course, right now, diesel's kind of a dirty word with the scandal that Volkswagen Audi was having with the emission cheating diesel models. But you can see the interior design in here certainly reminds me of other Audi products. The same MMI interface here, of course, with the smaller screen and the older graphics. You have some pretty nice looking materials at a glance. The dashboard is soft touch, of course. You have the same style of aluminum trim here that always accents the dash on all the other Audis. The door panel here is a soft touch. It's a little bit on the harder side with the graining, but you can see some real aluminum trim pieces splashed throughout, and it's very, very nice at initial glance. Now, the window is automatic one touch for all four, so you kind of expect that with a German luxury brand like this. The mirrors do not power fold like you do get on the Q5, of course, but you can see the mirror is pretty large. The steering wheel is basically the same steering wheel you get off of the A3. It's very nice leather bolstering, nice thick good handles here where your hands are basically going to rest, and the steering itself is an electric power steering, and it is a little bit on the light side, but that's a typical Audi trademark. Now, going at the rest of the interior, looking at the center stack, you can see this is where it's starting to show its age. And then, of course, touching this panel right here will remind you you do have the entry-level Audi product. It is hard touch plastic down here, but that's kind of the case as well for the BMW and the Mercedes competitors. Now, looking at this center stack here, now first of all, I want to point out Audi's MMI screen here does not retract or tilt down like it does in the A3, so that's another indication of a little bit of cost cutting that I'm seeing here in the interior. Now, Audi's MMI controller is also on the dashboard on the Q3. That is a very old design language. A lot of the newer Audis have placed them down here, so you can basically rest your hand right here on the armrest and then control the knob here. This is a little bit annoying to use, especially while you're driving. You have to basically just hold your hand up here with this small knob, the small quadrant soft key buttons that correspond to the 4 quadrants in the screen. And then, of course, when you go to the nav button here, you do have Audi's Google Map interface, which does run off of a 3G wireless hotspot that basically runs off of that through a subscription. The 3G is the fact that it also makes it pretty slow. You can see the Google Map interface does take a little bit of time to populate. The A3 that I showed you guys is a lot quicker. You can see it won't even really show you a clear screen. It pretty much just stays blurry like that until you zoom out a lot. Then it actually starts showing you some pretty crisp graphics. And overall, I like Audi's MMI navigation system. It's just a little bit small in this one, and you can definitely see the age in terms of the design, especially when you zoom in on your screen and the graphics don't actually load up properly, just showing you that slower 3G connection. Now, a backup camera likely does come standard on the Q3. You do have distance, trajectory, there's some front and rear parking sensors, so it's nice that Audi gives that to you as standard equipment. So overall that's where Audi is pretty much shining in terms of the value quotient. That's typically not something you associate with a German brand. Now, looking at the rest of the infotainment system, showing your different sources here, showing your media. One thing I still hate about the older Audis is the fact that the knob here turns the wrong direction when you want to scroll. Audi actually did change that on the newest models. So Audi did pretty much listen to a lot of the criticism here. This is basically a little counterintuitive the way it's set up now. And one thing you're also not going to notice, or you're going to notice, is the fact that the infotainment or the instrument panel display is pretty much an older design. Audi just showed us that beautiful new 12-inch screen that's in the Audi TT that'll basically be showing the virtual cockpit theme that'll basically be trickling down to all the other Audis, but you can see it's obviously absent here in the smaller Q3. Another thing that's definitely showing its age is the climate control switches. Instead of like a rotary knob that you get on the newer models, you have this little click style controller, which definitely reminds me of the old A3 back in 2006. And this also reminds me of basically every Audi product from 10 years ago. So this is pretty disappointing to see Audi still offer something like this on a 2016 model. But again, I have to be reminded that this is based on an old Mark V platform that dates back to 2005. The glove compartment here is lined with felt. It's a pretty decent size. I like the big panoramic sunroof that is standard. There is a little power retractable sunshade in case you guys don't want to have all the sun beating down on you. And overall, I think the seats, the standard leather bucket seats, are pretty comfortable. They're not really much in terms of bolstering or a sports seat, obviously, but they do hold you in place. The leather feels good. And overall, even though the quality in here is basically somewhat up to Audi standards, I do smell a lot of Volkswagen influence in here, especially down to this transmission. This is the 6-speed automatic transmission. It's not a dual clutch like it is in the A3, and it's not the 8-speed auto that you'll get in the Q5. This is essentially the same transmission that you get in the old Volkswagen Tiguan. But we'll get out into the test drive, and I'll show you guys the driving dynamics. But overall, just know that in terms of the interior ambiance in here, some of it does feel like an Audi, and some of it will remind you of a Volkswagen. And in terms of spaciousness, I do find the Q3 to feel a little bit on the narrower side. You do feel a little bit close to your front seat passenger, but overall you do get that nice commanding view of the road like you expect in this class of vehicle. Now, the back seat of the Q3 will also remind you that you bought a small Audi. The rear quarters are a little bit on the tight side as legroom is a little bit short, but not really any smaller than what you expect in the rest of this class. But stepping inside, of course, you can see here the legroom is a little bit on the tight side. You do have some pretty good foot space underneath here, and then you can see Audi still gives you some dual map pockets and then some vents back here, so it's nice to see that they didn't cut corners there. Now, of course, you're not going to find features like heated rear seats, not available on this car. The materials in the back are also soft touch, just like the front, with more aluminum trim pieces there. There is a nice armrest right here that comes down, and then there's some, looks like there's some storage right here, and then some cup holders, so it's nice to see that Audi didn't skimp there. But overall, you do feel the smallness of this back seat, especially the fact that there's not much width here. So 3 across would definitely be pretty tight. This is really more for just 2 small people to sit in the back. Now, a power tailgate is a $400 option on my tester. Some of the competitors, like I believe the BMW and the Mercedes, gives you a standard power tailgate, so Audi did skimp a little bit there. But you can see cargo space is a little bit on the small side. You're looking at about 16.7 cubic feet of space with those seats up. Of course, if you want to fold the second row seats down, you're going to get about 48 cubic feet of space, which does make it a little bit more spacious than the Mercedes GLA. The BMW X1 gives you the most. It gives you about 58 cubic feet of space. So if you're looking for the most practicality, the new BMW X1 is basically the one to get. Luckily, Audi does give you a temporary spare tire under there, so there's no fix-a-flat kit. But overall, you do get a little bit more cargo space here than a A3 hatch or the A3 sedan, of course. The Q3's hood, you're basically going to find one engine choice here in the US. The company's corporate 2-liter turbocharged TFSI direct injection 4-cylinder engine. Now, this is not the newer engine that you're going to find in the current Mark 7 GTI or even the Q5, the A3. This is the older version, so it now makes only 200 horsepower and 207 pound-feet of torque, roughly 20 less and 50 less pound-feet versus the Q5, for example. It's paired with only a 6-speed automatic transmission. This is not the dual clutch, this is not the 8-speed, so the powertrain is basically the same one that you're going to find in the current Volkswagen Tiguan, and that's been around for a few years now, so I'm a little disappointed to see the older powertrain here, but the Q3 does weigh about 3,700 pounds. It's a little heavier than the Mercedes GLA, a little bit lighter than the BMW X1, and fuel economy with this motor is rated at 20 city, 28 highway with the quattro all-wheel drive system. So it is a little bit on the lower side compared to its competition. But let's get out on the road and see how it all works together, shall we? Now, by now, you guys should pretty much know that I've always been a liker of Audi products. I really enjoyed the current generation A3. I loved that Q5 diesel. However, when I read the stats of the Q3 and realized just how old the platform was, I was a little worried, but I'll keep an open mind. So let's see how the Q3 actually performs out in the real world. Now, I've had a chance to drive the BMW X1 and the Mercedes-Benz GLA. In fact, I showed you guys a GLA 45 AMG. That car was an absolute riot. So my expectations for this class are quite high, and I have to say, at initial drive of the Q3, I'm feeling a little bit disappointed. Mostly because in this class, I really like the car to feel, or at least the SUV to feel, a little bit more SUV-like. A little bit more fun to drive, and the Q3 definitely feels a little bit on the softer side compared to its competitors. Now, I was expecting this 2-liter turbo to feel pretty underpowered, and I am noticing that this car has a lot more weight to lug around. It's been a while since I've driven the 2-liter turbo with a conventional 6-speed automatic. The 8-speed automatic that you drive in like an A4 or the Q5, for example, definitely shifts a lot quicker than this. This feels pretty much like yesterday's news in terms of the driving dynamics of this car. The steering is also typical Audi. It's a little bit on the soft and numb side, but you know, in this class of vehicle, you expect this thing to be practical, you expect it to be comfortable and quiet, and the Q3 does excel at that. This car definitely has a softer ride quality versus the Mercedes and at least the old BMW X1. Now, driving the Q3 normally around town, or at least around these curvy roads, the Q3 will definitely remind you that this is not the sportier Audi to drive. This car is definitely a lot softer. The steering isn't as quick as some other Audis that you drive with the Sport package, for example, but it is rather precise. The car just feels like it's very soft. It has a lot of body lean in corners, but the interior does stay pretty quiet. The road noise is hushed. The wind noise is hushed. Really what you hear is the engine, and it honestly sounds like I'm driving the 2-liter diesel engine. This 4-cylinder, I've forgotten how much like a diesel it sounds. And of course, this is the older 2-liter turbo, not the newer one that you'll find in the Mark 7 GTI or A3, for example. Luckily, that strong mid-range torque that you feel in these corporate 2-liter turbo engines from the Volkswagen Audi group is still there. The car has really good mid-range torque, and it feels a little bit stronger than its numbers would suggest. So really, for most of you who are going to be driving this car normally, and if you're not an enthusiast, you're going to be quite pleased with the overall execution. I mean, the transmission is smoother than the dual clutch you're going to find in the A3. It just doesn't shift as quick, so I was expecting the Q3 to feel like basically a tall A3, and I was very impressed with the 2.0T A3 that I drove, and this kind of feels like a tall version of the old A3, the one that was the first generation, the hatchback one, and that one was definitely feeling a little bit antiquated. So in terms of, you know, where this car fits in my scale for how good this is in the class, the Q3, I'm a little disappointed. It could be excellent, it could be the top tier in the class, but the fact that Audi brought this car on the old platform really infuriates me, because it's been a while since I drove an Audi that felt this old, and the fact that this is a brand new 2016 leaves me feeling a little bit, wee bit disappointed, to be honest. Now, when you keep your foot to the floor, I would expect the Q3 to get to 60 around the 8-second range, maybe the low 7 or the high 7s. I've seen it around 8 seconds, which is roughly about a second slower than the Mercedes GLA 250, almost 2 seconds slower than the all-new BMW X1. Now, I have driven the old X1, and that thing is a riot with the 2-liter turbo, and an even bigger riot with the 3-liter twin-power turbo straight 6. So I have to say that Audi could offer a little bit more performance. I mean, actually in Europe, they do offer an RS Q3 with the turbocharged 5-cylinder. That is unavailable, of course, in the United States market. Now, going around this curvy back road, I'm definitely feeling the soft suspension. This is not a taller A3 in terms of the driving dynamics. This is a lot softer. This feels like a Tiguan, to be honest, in its driving dynamics. And again, that engine does not sound good to me. It sounds like a freaking diesel engine. It's a little bit clattery, a little bit unrefined when you get it up in the range, but luckily it does feel pretty good from that strong surge of mid-range torque. Now, one thing I did notice about this Q3 that'll basically give away its age, this car is not available with any driver assistance tech, really. The only option my car has is the Audi side zone assist. that's basically just a blind spot monitoring. It's part of the technology package that my car has. There's no lane keeping assist, there's no lane departure warning, there's no adaptive cruise control, there's no automatic emergency braking. So again, that shows the age of the Q3. And in this class of vehicle, it's a little bit unacceptable. In this luxury class, you really expect it to offer a plethora of driver assistance tech, and it's just largely absent in the Q3. Now, regarding the fuel economy, I said this car was a little bit behind in terms of the APA numbers, and my testing over this week-long period has basically shown that I've averaged about the low 20 miles to the gallon range around town. Around the highway, I did get it closer to the 30 mpg mark, which is pretty good considering how much this vehicle weighs. It's pretty heavy at 3,700 pounds, but again, it could be better. The Mercedes-Benz GLA is rated at up to 32 miles per gallon and 27 in the city. Same thing for the BMW X1, the 2016 model. So Audi does have some work to do. If they really updated this motor with an 8-speed auto or the dual clutch and the newer 2-liter turbo, they could get, closer to that 35 mpg range, which is what really manufacturers need to target for this specific class of vehicle. Now, regarding the price, you would expect the Q3 to be a little bit cheaper because this is an older design compared to the other German competitors, and you'd be correct. The Q3 starts at about $33,700 for a two-wheel drive, a front-wheel drive version. Add $2,000 if you guys want Audi's patented Quattro all-wheel drive system. Now, of course, there are two trims. The Premium Plus is the one that starts at that lower end. The Prestige is about $5,000 more. It starts at about $38,000 if you guys want to go the Prestige. Now, my tester is a Premium Plus with the technology package that rolls in nav, the MMI interface, the Audi side zone assist. That's $2,600. $400 for my power tailgate. $500 for this Utopia blue metallic paint. All in, my tester's just over $40,000, which does sound pretty darn expensive. You could basically get a Volkswagen Tiguan for about $5,000 less if you guys go for a fully loaded Tiguan, which is of course an older design. I would happily stick with something like a Ford Escape Turbo, the Mazda CX-5, there's the Subaru Forester, of course, but again, you guys probably want the luxury badge. Now, compare that to the German competitors. The Mercedes GLA starts at about $32,500, so it is cheaper to start than the Audi, but it does have less equipment as standard, such as the bi-xenons, the power panoramic sunroof. The BMW X1 is the priciest competitor. That starts at about $34,000, so the Audi occupies a nice middle ground, basically where Audi has always been. But again, I really could see Audi being at the top level of the class when they redesign this car to go off the new Mark 7 platform. Now, overall, I'm pretty much as expected with this Q3. I'm a little disappointed with how old it is, but at the same time, I'm also impressed with how solid this car still feels, despite the fact that the platform is basically 2 generations old. But again, if you guys are in the market for a entry-level subcompact luxury SUV and you're okay with picking the older design in the class, the Q3 is certainly worth a look. Those of you who are looking for something a little bit sportier would probably be better off checking out the Mercedes-Benz GLA, and then of course the best all-arounder, which I haven't had a chance to test yet, is the BMW X1, which gives you the most interior space. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed my overview of this 2016 Audi Q3 Quattro. If you're in the market for a vehicle like this, you can also check this one out. Just know that some of the competitors offer a lot more technology and a newer platform, but it will end up costing you a little bit more. Anyways, if you guys are also looking to see the latest vehicles I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram, like us on our Facebook page, and of course, guys, as always, keep subscribed to the YouTube channel just so I can keep giving you guys all the up-to-date and latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.